law firms can be horrible places to work. It doesn't have to be. First of all, have excellent work product. Recruit people that are going to fit in your culture. We have the no jerk rule here. People can take hard coaching if they know you care about them, truly, genuinely. It's not a ploy. It's not some corporate slogan. We care about you. We love you.
Well, Joe, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Sitting here in the RMP office in Johnson, like one of the most beautiful buildings.
Thanks.
In Northwest Arkansas. So we want to dive in, talk about the story. Give us 3,000 square foot overview. What's RMP? What do you, as far as, a law office, the practicing attorneys, what do y'all do?
We're a full service law firm. There's a few areas we do not focus on. We don't do a lot of domestic relations, divorce and that kind of stuff. We don't do a lot of criminal law, but outside of that, we started out very focused in tax and estate planning because that's where Lee and I were, wealthy people have tax problems and they do deals. So you do a lot of transactional stuff, a lot of M&A stuff. We cover pretty much the entire gamut of clients that are in business sue and they get sued. Yeah. So that led to litigators. And so it's just kind of been an organic growth. The hub of it being that Lee and I started out, and Neil Pendergraph as well. Lee is the M in RMP. I'm the Reece, and I'm going to give you I go down rabbit trails, so you guys will have to bring me back, okay?
Yeah.
But people are like, boy, you must think you're pretty important that you demanded your name be first. And I was like, no, I didn't do that. We were first started out, we were going to be more Reece because Neil hadn't really made a decision when we started out. And Lee said, no, man, people are going to think we're called Maurice. They're going to be asking for Maurice like it's one. So that's how. So it's Lee Moore's fault. But we've branded ourselves just RMP. And we started out, we were just estate planning attorneys. And now, man, we have litigators and M&A attorneys and, securities and all sorts of stuff. It's just been very organic, but it's grown out of the hub of, I really consider I was at the right place at the right time. I got to Northwest Arkansas in the late 90s and had the blessing of just being trained and being around some really stellar attorneys and working with people out there in the financial community and CPAs and all that kind of stuff. So I was at the right place at the right time.
Well, and I know there's different schools of thought, like with attorneys, stay small and kind of you can do as much work as you want to do. It's billable hours. Like, why grow to why scale?
I'll be honest with you. We didn't start out going, oh man, we want to grow. I'll be honest with you. I'm not saying the growth has been accidental because it's been a little more intentional than that. But it's always been like, oh my gosh, we need help over here. It's been growing because of the pain of need for more help getting the work out. Yeah. That's really what it's been. And to a certain extent, also, there's a Bible verse that says, but the Lord built the house, they labor in vain that build it. And so I don't ever want to try to sit here and take credit for the growth of RMP as though I'm some mastermind. The guests you guys have on are probably forgotten more about managing a business than I know. But for me, there's been growth of just, hey, we've got a need over here, man. We need a commercial litigator. Hey, we need a tax litigator. Hey, we need someone that's, M&A that, does a lot of contract stuff and all that kind of stuff. And then there's been this side of, hey, man, I like this person over here. It'd be fun to practice with them. Yeah. So a lot of our growth has been lateral. And then our growth has been recruiting good kids. You got these kids that come out of law school and they clerk for you and they're so bright.
They're doing a great job.
And they're hardworking, like one of the fallacies about when you get old, you guys will learn this someday. When you get old, you just become crabby and you just gripe about everything. And so that's part of the joy of being an older person as you get to gripe about everything. But, one of the things that is just ridiculous to me is when I hear people talk about, well, this generation, they don't know how to work and all that. Man, these kids I see, it's like they're getting after it just like the rest of us were. They have career goals and they have ambition and they're smart and they're hardworking. And so you just naturally go, man, these people are good people. It'd be awesome if we could make a place for them. And so that's how the growth has happened. I do like to plan, and I do, when I say I'm meaning the ones of us that are up here kind of setting vision and all that. But it's not like I started out in 2005 when we opened this place and said, okay, our goal by 2025 is to have 40-something attorneys and be in the offices where we are. It's really just kind of
just happened.
It's been organic, and so
let's go to the beginning. So you're from a very small town.
Oh, it's not even a town. Ozone, Arkansas.
Talk about growing up and like, when did you know you wanted to be an attorney? And the journey getting to Northwest Arkansas.
Yeah. So the youngest child of Lewis and Nancy Reece grew up in Ozone, Arkansas. My daddy was my clients in East Arkansas say, Joe, you did not grow up on a farm. Quit saying that, because you grew up on maybe you'd call it ranch. We had beef cattle and pigs and all that good stuff, like people that grew up in the country out in Arkansas during the 80s and stuff like that. Had 3 older sisters, and I really hit the lottery, guys, as far as we were poor. Everybody in Arkansas was poor. But my parents, they were so hardworking, and man, they really experienced the American dream. My father built up his business. My mother is an author. She's had multiple books published and received awards out the wazoo. And so my parents were the type of people, if you said, hey, the Super Bowl's happening over here, out here in the lot by your house, they'd have been like, I don't care. But if it was academics, my father and mother just their desire was they wanted their children to have an education. I mean, and that education to me, that's just been so ingrained in us. It is the thing that will break the cycle of poverty, and they employed it in their own life. My mother went to college at the same time I went to college, and so we just big believers in education. So now I'd go watch the Super Bowl if it was on the lot next to me. I love sports, but my parents don't. So.
You were saying earlier you bus an hour and a half to school?
Oh, I rode the school bus 3 hours a day. Got on at 7 a.m. and got off at 5 p.m. So my kids will be rolling their eyes if they ever listen to this. It'd be like, oh, great, the uphill both ways to school thing. All you old guys, you know what to do. But no, when I say I hit the lottery, when I look at the people that I see overcome and are successful and those things, and I'm not trying to count myself in that, I look at people who have really just overcome so much. Maybe they've lost a parent, or maybe there's been some childhood trauma or all that. I didn't have any of that. I had 2 parents that loved me, and they disciplined me and told me to not be dumb when I was being dumb. And they just worked. We just worked all the time. I mean, we worked. When you grow up like that, you just work. And so we worked every day except Sunday morning when we went to church. And after church, we ate some lunch and went back to work. And so that was childhood. And that's been a great thing for me that my parents gave me as well, is there's just a lot of things in life you can overcome. Just is a little bit of suffering with it, and it doesn't feel great sometimes, but just roll out. Yeah. I've said to my kids, just show up a little early. It's the same old things our great grandparents were telling us. Show up a little early,
have a good attitude.
And get after it. Just look at the people that are the closest around you and outwork them. Yeah. And then find a new group to outwork, and you just keep on doing it. And let the good Lord take care of the rest.
Sure. And so where'd you go to college? Where was I
went to the University of Ozarks in Clarksville. Wasn't my original plan to go there. I'm so glad I did. Met my wife there, and we've been married for 32 years now. I have 4 kids. But It was in Clarksville. My parents got in a bad car wreck my senior year of high school. And my father traveled. He was involved in he was involved in heavy construction. He is an iron worker, and he at the time was working with a company, and they would like redo steel mills and all that stuff. So he was these guys, kind of like these people in the oil and gas business that like they go out on the oil derricks in the Gulf, and they'll work a month on and then be home for 3 weeks. It was that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so we had the livestock and all the different stuff that had to happen, at home. And so I intentionally said, I'm going to go to college close to where my home is, because my mom couldn't do all that stuff by herself. And my sisters were all gone. Yeah. And so that was my choice. And it was great. It was great. I've served on the board of trustees down there in Clarksville. That's a wonderful school. And man, I've never regretted going there. That was a great experience. And as I said, I met Mrs. Reece down there, my wife, Elise.
Can't discount that.
Yeah.
No. And then so law school was after that, right after that?
Right. So I graduated from Ozarks with an accounting degree. And I'll go back. My father just loved education, and he really started saying to me, my dad didn't allow you to be one of these people that are like, I don't know what I'm going to do. That wasn't good enough. So we were the very traditional family. Like, we would eat dinner and we're sitting at the table, and my dad was just a very intentional, good man, thinker, loves to, not a bully at all, but just, hey, Joe, what do you want to do? Why do you want to do that? Have you ever thought about this? And he was like, I think, and I'm serious when I say this. One time I was interviewed by Arkansas Business, and they were like, how did you come up with, and I had forgotten this. And then later I remembered it, but my father specifically mentioned tax attorney to me.
Really?
Which is so unusual, because I don't know that my dad had ever met a tax attorney. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. And that's one of those things where you start wondering, well, was that God's plan, or what? Did he, you know what I mean? It's like, and so, but my dad really did a great job of challenging me with a vision and saying, hey man, what do you want to do? And he really wanted his kids to have professional careers and all that good stuff. And so I went and got an accounting degree, because honestly, I didn't really like accounting. It's not that interesting to me. I mean, there are people up here, they love it. And I love that they love it. And as a matter of fact, to all you CPAs and accountants out there, if you love it, come love it with us. Yeah.
There's more room.
We want you to be here. I won't make fun of any of y'all. But it was like, I just sort of said, well, what am I going to major in? And I just said, well, you always got to read financial statements. So that's how I picked my undergrad career. But then I knew I wanted to go to law school. My wife and I got married right after. That's about 94. And moved to Macon, Georgia, and went to law school down there, and Mercer University. Had a great 3 years there, and then went on to the University of Miami to get my LLM.
And so is an LLM kind of like a residency for a doctor or fellowship? Or
a little bit. It's a master's. Okay. So law, you do the Juris Doctorate first, and then you do the master's. But it's just generally a year program. Okay. Some of them may be a little longer than that or whatever. I'm not positive today. It's been so long since I've been in in that environment. But you just have some intensive study in a very focused area. So it's not just estate planning where you have LLMs. You have LLMs in tax. You have LLMs in different. And I think, don't hold me to this, I could be wrong, but I think U of A has an LLM in ag law now.
Oh wow!
I think.
Yeah.
I may be wrong, but I thought I read that. So just some intensive study, and so. Down there, and that's when the call from that I was telling you guys about came in.
And say that again. So who called, and what was and this was getting you to Northwest Arkansas? Yeah.
So there was a great CPA. We've lost him a few years ago, but he's a great CPA and a good dude. His name was Reece Parham, Sandlin Parham out here. And they've just had a presence in Northwest Arkansas for a long time. Great group of folks over there. And my brother-in-law was a CPA down in Russellville. And so CPAs do peer review audits, and it's a part of their self-governance and all that stuff. And I'm sitting in Coral Gables, Florida, and down there in law school, and I get a call from my brother-in-law and said, Joe, you need to call this Reece Parham guy in Fayetteville, because my wife and I, we didn't have kids at the time, and we were like, oh, where are we going to live? And you could live anywhere, we could have picked.
Yeah.
And she said, no, I want to live in Fayetteville. That's where I want to live. And she just, even though she grew up in South Florida, she just wanted to live here.
Yeah.
I wanted to raise kids here. And she's loved it, still loves it, and just wouldn't want to live anywhere else, as many other people are doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I called Reece, and he started telling me about a guy who, just a legend, E.J. Ball.
Yeah.
And he started talking to me like, there's this attorney, E.J. Ball, and he's got a law firm, and man, they're really trying to get attorneys up here. And so I called, and I started talking to a man named Kenneth Morton, a great attorney and just a legend in his own right, and started a conversation. And the man that interviewed me, that came down to Miami and interviewed me, was named Lee Moore. And if I would have known the impact he was going to have in my life, because not only friendship, Lee is just, he's an astounding human being. He is an unbelievable practitioner. I think Lee is one of the brightest human beings I've ever met, just intellectually. One of the things when you're not that intelligent, which I'm not being self-deprecating, I'm just kind of an old middle of the road guy myself, but Lee is God blessed him with a mind, and he is so skilled at what he does. And I've been the beneficiary of that because Lee really coached and trained. And, one of the things I credit Lee so much for with RMP is because of Lee's reputation for excellence, and it's a national reputation, it truly is. He gave us credibility when we were tiny.
Yeah.
Wow. And I just am so grateful for that. So Lee interviewed me to go on with the story. Came up and interviewed. Went to work at Ball and Morton, and just Neil Pendergraph. That's where I met Neil Pendergraph.
Yep.
And that was just an excellent firm, and got some great training there. And then transitioned after 4 years. This is my personal journey, but worked with another wonderful attorney. Wasn't a tax attorney at all. A man named Walter Cox.
Okay.
Just legendary attorney in Arkansas. And Walter, I was like looking for a place to practice, and Lee was originally with a law firm in Pine Bluff, great law firm called the Bridges Firm, and they're still down there. And Lee had kind of gone back. He had some family health issue type thing that he had to deal with in his family, and so he was back in Pine Bluff, and I was up here. I had left Ball and Morton. I was working with Walter Cox, and Walter was a wonderful man. We've lost him as well, and just no person with better integrity, just a titan, and Walter had such an impact on me as well. Just, Walter was the epitome of, you do not have to be a jerk to be a good attorney. You don't. That's just in popular culture. I think a lot of times they take a kid that's the most obnoxious, or at least this is what happened with me, and they say, you should be a lawyer. But Walter was just a gentleman and cared about people, and he was just awesome. He just great with juries. And so anyway, watching him, that was inspirational. You just learn from the people that are, above you. And, Neil Pendergraph was a great influence on me as well. Just a man that has done so much for his community, and just, I don't know anybody that doesn't like him, and that's a testament to him. So all of that led to me where I'm sitting today. I mean, there's so many people that have helped me and built this thing.
Mm-hmm. We'll talk about forming the partnership between y'all three. So I think you were saying before we started, maybe it was just you and Lee to begin with, and then Neil kind of came on. Maybe what was
It was really all kind of rammed in there together. So when I was winding down with Walter Cox, and he had he had his son there, and then he had an attorney named Jamie Estes, just great attorney as well. He's still here in Northwest Arkansas. But while I was there, the deal flow and the client stuff had just gotten so burdensome that I was having to have help. Well, those guys were litigators, and as a result, I was having to get help from attorneys all around because I'm a one-man show.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to do, M&A type work and tax litigation and high level estate planning and all this stuff and not have a team of people behind you.
Yeah.
So Lee was helping provide those bodies through his firm. And there were some other attorneys that I was associating with at the same time that were great, that were helpful. And so that whenever it was clear that, man, it was just necessity. Walter and I never had a crossword with each other. It was, hey, man, I got to have a bunch more bodies. And I don't think that was Walter's vision for what he wanted. And I don't blame him. It's like, hey, we're kind of heading this way. And I'm like, man, I don't have any choice. I'm going to lose these. I've got to have a bunch more bodies. And so as a result, I started saying, I'm just going to have to build something. And there were a lot of talks and there were people saying, hey, why don't you come over here? And why don't you do this? And even Lee and Neil and I were having different discussions. And then finally, Lee just said, I'm going to come to Northwest Arkansas and I'm going to help you. Mm-hmm. And it was in the midst of that, he came up here. This guy has been so sacrificial for me. It's why I love him. He stayed in an apartment up here for, months without even going home. And we were working hard. It was intense. And finally, we just said, let's just do this. Let's just open a firm. And so it was just Lee and I. And then after that, Neil and his family, they're not only, great partners and everything, but, Neil's been a great client of the law firm as well. And his mom and, it's just his extended family. So I said to Neil, I want you to be part of this because I always liked him. And again, when you're young and you're trying to brand yourself and all that, you're also wanting, that credibility and stuff with people. And man, Neil, it was, again, like Lee's expertise and name gave credibility to us. And then Neil, as well, because he's such a good man and great attorney in his own right. And then just all of the stuff he's done in Northwest Arkansas, he and his family just beloved and respected. Why would you not want to be associated with that? Yeah. I'm not the brightest guy in the world, but if you want to have a successful business, surround yourself with a bunch of great people and you'll be successful. Try not to get in their way.
It's awesome. So that was like roughly 2005, around there. Okay. Yeah. And what were, I know you talked a little bit about each of you, but like what were each of your fields of expertise as it relates to law?
Lee and I, it's practically identical. So our fields we do large client estate planning. Okay. And so it's not, it's like, now this is not all we do. You might be doing, Aunt Betty's simple last will and testament, and she's just, or there might be a pensioner over here. We'll help anybody.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But what our sweet spot is people that have large taxable estates. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And that need national level expertise and strategies on dealing with everything from business succession to, working with money management to taxation to, corporate governance and those sorts of things, regulatory type help, all those things, all points in between. It's not just, hey, we draft trusts. So it's kind of a broad field. And that's what Lee and I and Neil did historically. Well, guess who likes to attack those people? The IRS. So then you're doing a lot of dispute resolution on stuff and with the IRS and all that. Well, when I was at Walter's place, kind of winding down, I had this brilliant clerk over there, and his name is Denny Woods. And I've probably had a horrible effect on Denny's life because I convinced him to become a tax attorney. And as bright as this kid was, he's now I'm all seriousness. Denny's brilliant. I mean, he was like Lee, just academically off the charts. Good man, hardworking kid. And so when Lee and I got started, said to Denny, hey, Denny, go get your LLM and we want you to be part of us. We were still needing so much help because we had so much work. So Denny's down at Florida getting his LLM, which is one of the best programs in the country. And we have a lady who's an attorney here in Northwest Arkansas, and she called and said, "Hey, there's this kid here. He's originally from Jonesboro, and he is out in San Diego getting his LLM in tax. And would you want to talk to him?" Heck yeah, we want to talk to him. And Alex Miller walked through the door.
Oh, wow.
And Alex Miller and Denny, they've been with us from the beginning. I mean, literally from the beginning. And so, man, Alex, I say this to people a lot of times. I don't think people realize the incredible impact that Alex has had on growing this business. For one reason is when we started, you get more gentle as you get older, but I was pretty intense.
Yeah.
I'm pretty intense. Everybody here, people that have worked here that I've given PTSD to are laughing. Intense is probably light. But Alex was so beneficial in this sense. Alex is good with people, and he's wise. He's just real even keel. And he was someone that really helped me to say, "Hey, man, this isn't that big a deal," or "Hey, how about we handle this way?" Because, man, let me tell you, one of the things that's astounding to me is people that are exceptional managers. My hat goes off to them. Yeah. It's like you see people and you look at these stars, the Sam Waltons and the Don Tysons of the world and the J.B. Hunts and all those people that you look and you're like, man, they just had some, God bless them with some talent. You know what I mean? And I didn't have that, I learning how to manage people. Boy, that is been something that's been probably the biggest challenge for me in the sense of, but Alex was so great at that.
Yeah.
And so as a result, he's helped me run this place and Lee. Man, I mean, he's been here for nearly 20 years, 18, 19 years somewhere in there. And he was just very instrumental. Besides just being an excellent attorney, like Denny Woods is just top of his game. And Denny does what Lee and I do, estate planning, deals, all that sort of stuff. And he is exceptional. Just has developed just an amazing practice. Alex, also exceptional attorney, but he helps me also with just a lot of day-to-day HR, that kind of stuff here.
That's good. Well, dive a little bit more into that, because I think your field specifically, when we talk about the legal industry, it's probably an industry that has a little bit more of like you're in your lane, you're billing your hours. Like how do you fit into a larger firm? How do you keep people cohesive? How do you keep them like bought in on the mission of the firm?
Those are challenges, and you do it with, sometimes you're doing it well and sometimes you're not doing it well. One of the challenges of growing a firm from a tiny firm to a bigger firm, because when you use the word bigger firm and you're talking about a firm our size, it's like, there are firms with 3,000 attorneys,
Sure.
They're outside of Arkansas, and they're like big. If we're in Chicago, we're a boutique, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so that's certainly true, but it's a great question. And the challenge is, hey, I've got to work for these clients. I've got to get my work out. It's demanding. At the same time, trying to do administration and trying to make sure that you equip the people that you have so they can succeed. Well, Lou Holtz famously said one time, they asked him, how do you have a motivated football team? And he said, well, you get rid of the unmotivated ones. The people that have moved here laterally, they're winners. They were winners before they got here. Yeah. They don't need Joe Reece to win. Yeah. But one of the things that you try to do is you try to allow them to run at their maximum, RPMs. And you have to do different things for different people in order to do that. Mm-hmm. And that all comes down to personality. It comes down to ego. For some people, I view my role here as primarily trying to identify vision and trying to, as best I can, sometimes I'm good at it, sometimes I'm not, of making our people think about what is our culture? What is it? And our culture, what I've said, and I've said this many times, is I want our culture to be a culture of sacrifice. So law firms can be, bless you.
Thank you.
Law firms can be horrible places to work. You go out and you start talking to lawyers and stuff, they can tell you war stories of, man, this is such a, this is an awful experience I had, there's an old saying that you used to hear old attorneys say when I was a kid, and that was the practice of law as a jealous mistress. And there's all these things about, well, lawyers have ruined their families and become alcoholics and drug addicts, and it's just an awful, environment and blah, blah, blah. Well, it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
It does not have to be. You can practice law at a high level and be at all your kids' baseball games. You can be a good daddy and a good mama, right? So one of the things that we've tried to do is, first of all, have excellent work product. Because no matter how shiny or how much of a sales pitch you make to people, ultimately you're going to deliver results for them or they're going to go somewhere else. Yeah. So clients drive it.
Yeah.
And you have to meet your customers' needs or they're going to go hire somebody else. That's just logic. So the next thing, though, after that is recruit people that are going to fit in your culture. Yeah. And the people that don't fit in your culture, it doesn't mean they're bad, but we are not for everyone here.
Yeah.
Okay. And when I started out, I was talking to Don Soderquist, who's just a legendary, wonderful man. We've lost him. And I said, Mr. Soderquist, about to start a little law firm here. You got any advice for me? And he said, the problem with law offices and doctors' offices? And I said, no. He said, nobody knows who the boss is. He said, they're inefficient. And I was like, really? I thought about that. And what that did is that led us to our management. It's actually quite a bit different than a lot of law firms. And so we're not operated like the United Nations. It's not like the United States Congress. We tend to have a much more focused, centralized management. We want to hear from people, but the decisions that we do, there's a group of 4 of us, and we make those decisions, hiring, firing, all of that kind of stuff. Now, financially, we are generous. That's the next thing. Don't be greedy. And a lot of people say they're generous, and they're really not. But man, the reason that our growth has been driven laterally is we just let people keep more money.
Yeah.
And so that certainly everybody's trying to support their families. They're trying to have their best life. And so money is it's a motivator.
Yeah.
And so if you want good people and they're superstars before they get to you, and our laterals, I believe, are that way. They've had a long track record of proving themselves. I mean, Paul McNeil in our Jonesboro office is a legendary litigator in the state of Arkansas. Paul McNeil does not need Joe Reece to succeed. He was already a success. Okay. What Paul McNeil needs is for Joe Reece to help him, help surround administratively, but really primarily just don't get in his way. You know what I mean? Yeah. He was practicing law at a high level long before I started, being involved in his life. So there's that. There's also, from when you said, how do you have cohesion? One of the things is you communicate. We tell people we have the no jerk rule here, because now there are people that would probably say, yeah, well, that's because you're the jerk, Joe. It could be. But my point is, everybody's going to have a bad day. Everybody's going to have trouble at home. Everybody's going to have a sick kid. Everybody's going to have something going on in their life and you're not trying to operate a business like Chairman Mao, okay, where everyone must. But by the same token, it is good to have a hand that comes along and says privately and as gently as possible, hey, we don't do that here.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. This is who we are. And to just, most of the people know it or they wouldn't be here in the first place, but just to refocus. So there's some of that. And then, you know, the other thing dealing with is attorneys have egos. You may not have picked up on that, but attorneys have egos, me as well. And so there are people, it's amazing to me, but there are people that you could cut their pay, but if they feel important to the mission and they feel included, and they are, you know, it's not like you're lying to them, you're not manipulating, but if they feel that, they'll run through a wall.
Mm.
And, you know, I've always said this. I was watching, and I don't care who your team is, so all you Chiefs fans out there, don't come at me. But I like the New England Patriots, and I started watching them whenever Tom Brady was up there, and just watching this dynasty unfold. And I was watching, you know, where they mic them up after the Super Bowl and stuff, and it was that Atlanta Super Bowl where they came back from being down 28-3. What I started noticing is you have all these tough, huge, you know, intense pro football players, and I started noticing them saying something. They'd be like, man, we got to have a drive. And they were saying, I love you to each other. Now, we don't hear I love you. We hear a lot of reference to love in society now. But, man, it's like I started thinking about that. I was like, you know, and this is not, I'm not particularly a touchy-feely person, but I started going, you know what? That's the key. If people know in a genuine way, I mean, the way your grandfather loved you or should have loved you, of, hey, he may have been a tough old bird that discipline and growl at you or whatever, but you knew he loved you, right? You knew he cared about you, your family, your children, and all that. People can take hard coaching and a demanding boss if they know you care about them truly, genuinely.
Yeah.
Okay. So part of our culture has been, sometimes I've been good at that and sometimes I haven't. I think Lee was a lot better at that. Alex was a lot better at that probably than I was in making people aware of it's not a ploy. It's not some corporate slogan. It's, we care about you. We love you.
Yeah.
And we want what's best for your life. And it's like, so for example, we've had some people leave. They had great opportunities. And what we always said to them is, you know, because people are always anxious, like, oh, we don't want to tell you we're leaving and all this. Man, if you've got a better job or a better thing for your family and I begrudge that, what in the world, what kind of person would that be? If you're working for me and it's beneficial for me and all of a sudden I look up and you go, man, I've got this awesome opportunity over here. If I really care about you, I should be like, cool, man, good for you. It might hurt me a little bit, but I should care about you enough to want your betterment over mine.
Yeah.
But the world, and especially the practice of law, it is dominated by selfishness.
Yeah.
So try not to be selfish. Now, have I been selfish in my life? Of course. You know, I'm not trying to come off as like some pious, you know, whatever. But in general, if you're talking about cohesion, you're talking about our group, recruit good people, sacrifice for one another. Don't treat people like they are widgets to be expended. Okay. And then I'm going to go with the flip side over here. Don't put up with a bunch of nonsense.
Yeah.
A young parent once asked me, is like, what's your best advice for raising kids? And I was like, this is Joe Reese's guide to parenting. Do a bunch of, cut it out. Just hush, quit. There's a lot of that. And there's a lot of that as a leader of an organization. Just quit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's wrong? Tell me what's really wrong. Okay. Are you struggling? What? And so there's both of that. And I think that's been our cohesion. And we've had very little turnover. Thank God. We've got wonderful people. And another thing too is you don't have to be liked by everybody.
Yeah.
I guarantee you there's people here who don't like me. Rightfully so. You know, it's like, So what? If you're good and you're honest and you're great at your job, why can't we work together and achieve the mission? So you try to keep the ego stuff all out of it as much as possible. The one thing you cannot do here, it's the kiss of death. You can't lie. Mm-hmm. You cannot lie here to each other. We got to be real. And you can't, so that's really we kind of tried to keep it simple. Treat people with dignity, understanding. We're going to have some grace and some mercy towards people. And we need you to have grace and mercy towards us. We're all going to work hard. We're going to be committed to our craft. I mean, when I say this, I mean it. This law firm, when I think about our litigators, okay, Tim Hutchinson, Larry McCready, Chris Plumley, Paul, Wendy Johnson, and I'm going to miss some names. We have them spread out. We have 18 lawyers that are on the best lawyers in America list.
Wow.
And I am humbled and grateful for that. These people are talented. They are good at what they do. And so if you have good people who are good at what they do, even Joe Reece, as bad of a manager as I am, can't mess that up.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and with the people, so I know at just outside looking in, it's like every lawyer's dream, make partner, be part of the thing. I mean, it sounds like y'all have you got your core team is making decisions, and then what's the rest of that process like? Maybe compared to regular industry, and for someone who's not in in your world.
So, in the legal world, historically, it has been you come out of law school, you go into a law firm, you work like crazy, and you still have to do that, but you normally 8 to 12 years is kind of the track to be a partner.
Yeah.
And when you become a partner, some law firms have buy-in where you actually have to pay into the equity and all that kind of stuff. And so, they want you to hit your billable goals. They want you to do all these things. And then you come in. But even those law firms, a lot of times management is divorced from ownership. So it's about how you divide money. And what we do is we take our young attorneys, we try to tell them, hey, here's what we want you to do. We want you, like all law firms, we want you involved in the community. We want you making good decisions. We want you, collecting this amount of money. We do a lot for development, trying to develop our associates and all that. And then once you become a partner here, then you get to keep an X% of what you make. And it's a very generous percentage compared to I think a lot of people out there across nationally and stuff. And then we have a bonus system, that where people are rewarded for. We try to reward conduct. Like, for example, you've got to reward your rainmakers, your people that bring in business. Yeah. And then you got to reward the people that are working hard. Yeah. Okay. And what you can't do, and this is something I credit Lee and I and Alex and Neil and Tim Hutchinson's also part of our executive. Tim has had such a huge impact on this law firm. He's sort of oversees our litigation side and stuff. And Tim's just a brilliant lawyer and an even better man and is a dear friend. And he's just an exceptional guy. But that's the core group of our executive, kind of what I call our executive committee. And so, and what we do is that we go out to the broader partnership and we really ask their advice. People need to feel that they have skin in the game and are included. And we really do want them to have that. Yeah. So if you go out and it's 3 of you and you got a group of 20 people that are bright, good people, and they're like, this is a bad idea, you better listen to that. Yeah. So even though they may not have a veto, you need to listen to your people. So that's sort of it's pretty straightforward. It's nothing. What we want with our young people is not just money.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm so protective of this culture. So if you have a young associate, and let's say they're great, man, they bill and they produce money, they just cause problems. They cause fights and, or let's say they're real selfish. Well, what partnership is, and I've said this to young people before, partnership is not a merit badge.
Yeah.
Partnership is co-ownership of a business that I started, okay, and Lee started. So we're talking about we're getting married here, kind of, business speaking.
Yeah.
Well, who you want to be married to? You want to be married to a selfish person? I don't, So you want people that are going to be, giving, hardworking, honest, but also at the same time, you got to be those things as well. And so you've got to, again, care more about those people than you do yourself. And that's a challenge. That's a challenge now. I'm a Christian, a very imperfect one. But again, that's what made Jesus special. He cared about people more than he cared about himself. And so, there's key there.
Yeah.
It's hard to do. But again, these young people, man, they've got options too. It's like they're so talented and they're really exceptional human beings. I told our people up here, I'm dead serious. I told Bo Renner, who's in charge of exceptional attorney for us, a young attorney downstairs, and he does a lot of our recruiting and, interviewing, all this stuff. And we're so fortunate to have him. But I said, Bo, I'm not sure I could get a job here. And I'm dead serious. It's like these kids that we bring in here, they're so academically, I don't think I could have gotten an interview here. I don't know, So you've also got to look for, hey, maybe this person over here, maybe they're not as academically strong, but they may be great at bringing in business.
Yep.
Because you find in the law, Lee has always said this, there's finders, minders, and grinders. You got to have all of them.
Yeah.
People got to get business, people got to run the shop, and people got to churn through the work in a very, efficient and effective manner. You got to produce good work.
And talk about, so you said like the good work's kind of the core of like building the business. Let's talk about, so when you started, three of y'all, Alex Miller comes on, and you're building this business. Is a lot of the core growth in Northwest Arkansas? Are you doing work outside the state, across the state? And how's that evolve?
It was really, it's really more, okay, certainly we've benefited from the boom in Northwest Arkansas.
Yeah.
There's just no question. And because this was our home base early on.
Yeah.
And what has happened with this economy and this area of the country, it's spectacular. We've been so fortunate. The people that I went to school with, that are on Wall Street or out in LA, and they're like, where are you living? What? But now you don't have that.
Yeah.
I don't go anywhere. People are like, Northwest Arkansas, what? So you don't have that. You think about places like here, Omaha, Nebraska, flyover country, but people know there's a thriving business community here. And we have benefited from that. But Lee and I specifically, we always had represented people from all over the state. Okay. And, even going back to the days when we were with EJ and Kenneth and those people, we represented people all over the country.
Yeah.
Estate planning, here's how you grow a tax and estate planning business. You do really good work for client A, and client A goes and tells friend, hey, this guy, he did a good job, or this gal, she did a great job for me. It really is word of mouth. Yeah. There is now, marketing, I know for a lot of businesses that really is important. But man, in our business, it's word of mouth.
You got to execute.
You've got to execute. Yeah. And so I can say we represent people, and now we've grown to the point where it's not hugely international. It's not uncommon for us to be representing someone from Germany or, somewhere like that. They usually have some there's some connection, they're in the vendor community or, or they have farmland. There's a lot of people, Argentina and different places that are, buying land in Arkansas. And so, you end up being involved with some of those folks and stuff.
Give us a hypothetical example, like of someone who, in a complicated estate or like complicated family business that like that y'all are providing, the immense value to, like that they're not getting anywhere else.
Well, now, it'd be presumptuous to say they're not getting it anywhere else because there's certainly great estate planning and tax attorneys, around.
Yeah.
What we do is I'll just give you an example of what we do for families. So a lot of, and I'm going to obviously be speaking more for the estate planners and the tax attorneys and the business lawyers than I am the litigators. And so I just, you speak about what you know. We take high wealth families. So let's say you're worth $500 million and you have a real estate portfolio over here. You have aviation. You may be involved in, technology, different technology plays. You've got different businesses in different places and all that. By the same token, normally those wealthy families, they have, it's not just a couple of people, their children and grandchildren and all that. And maybe they have a big financial advisory team, sometimes 2 or 3 of them. And so what you become is you try to help them build is the sort of become not the hub, but sort of you try to really help those folks build out what is called a family office. And that's a very common term. People generally know what that is. And really, that is designed. You don't come in and plug a family into something you've already designed. You go build it for them. I tell people there's nothing wrong with buying cabinets from a big box or whatever place, but there's custom cabinets and we build custom cabinets here. And that's what, it's what we're doing. So you may need help with aviation. And if so, we know how to help with that. You may need, there's a lot of very wealthy people who say maybe you've made a lot of money in real estate. Well, you may know next to nothing about, IT security and those sorts of things. Okay. A lot of folks say, hey man, we need help with our tax reporting or we need somebody to help us understand and work with our financial advisors to know what all we're in. There's a lot of asset protection. We do a lot of that work. And so what we're doing is we're just kind of being, and we don't care if people consider us the boss or whatever, we don't care if the CPA is the main person in charge or the financial advisor. What we want to do is just always be ready with the answers. Yeah. Okay. And so if there's we got a problem, we want to, so it might be, well, we need an in-house CPA. Well, we'll go recruit that for you. Yeah. We'll find that person. We can enter into seconding agreements with families where we recruit and then place people. And that person, they may be an employee of RMP, but they're going to work at that business and they report to that family and et cetera. You see what I'm saying? Yep. So that's, I don't know if I'm doing a good job of answering your question, but that's what we're doing for these families. Yeah,
that's exactly. Just trying to understand what is that like fully encompassing. I think you did. And talk about, so the different offices, build, opening each office. Why did you do it? And when you did it?
So one of the things is we'll start with Bentonville because Fayetteville is just where we were. And then of course we moved out here because our folks wanted to build a building and we had some good partners that we teamed up with to build this building and I wish we'd have built it a little bigger. I'll be honest with you. We didn't know we were going to fill this thing up that fast. But so Bentonville. There was an legendary attorney up in Benton County named Jerry Dawsey. Any of you guys ever know
another name?
Jerry? Yeah. Jerry was just a wonderful guy. We've lost him. He passed on several years ago. But Jerry came to us and just said, "Hey, I really care. I don't know who's going to take care of my clients if something happened to me and I retire or whatever." So we're like, okay. That's where we got started up there. Jerry then passed away unexpectedly. And we had a young man who worked here named B.R. Price, still does, partner here. And you talk about somebody that took a bullet for me. He went up there and started working that Bentonville office, really saved it for us, and it's flourishing. And so I'm forever grateful to BR. And that is a place that it's just like, you don't have to be a genius to know. We need to continue to focus up there, that market and all that.
And where's that located? Like where in Bentonville?
It's right off the square up there on A Street. It's block or two down,
Yeah.
And real quick, when you talked about Dawsey. Okay. Is that in the law world, is that an acquisition? Is that
That's a
merger?
great question. Yes.
Okay.
It's both.
Okay.
It's what it is really Jerry, and we've had other attorneys that have done this. We didn't buy his business. What we did is he came and he donated his clients and stuff. And we just started helping take care of it. We just started working together.
Yeah.
And, John Lessel down in Little Rock. I mean, John is just a stud. He's retiring, kind of semi-retired, but John, when he came to us, it's just, hey man, I need help. I want to make sure that these clients that I've built up over the years are going to be well taken care of. And so we were just like, okay, let's go. You're a good man and you're a great lawyer. You fit our culture and let's go. And so we changed the name over the door, but the furniture or nothing else changed, and the people kept coming. And then, you recruit, have a exceptional attorney that we God blessed us with that moved here out of California named Adam Flock. He's a deal lawyer, just exceptional. Man, this guy's done transactional stuff everywhere. Well, he came in with John and then recruited two young ladies down there that are just brilliant, LLMs. And so, it's just growth like that. It's not like we go, okay, we want to buy your practice. Legal practices are hard to sell because it's about relationships. Yeah. Look, your clients, if you're a lawyer here, and you could say that about anybody here, if Seth Haynes, one of our great litigators here, decided to walk across the street, Seth Haynes' clients are going to go with him, right? Yeah. They love him.
Yeah.
That's what the practice of law is. So you have to get really big, in my view, to have something that you could wind up and market and sell. Okay. So you say, well, is it a merger? It's much more of a merger. But we just kind of say to people, hey, man, we're willing to learn, but we really think we have a good system here. Why don't you just come plug into it?
Yeah.
And that's how it's been. So it's more of a merger, but it's not like a purchase like you would a traditional business.
Yeah.
That's good. No, I was just kind of listening to what you're saying. So, and then Jonesboro was similar thing.
Jonesboro was Paul McNeil, who, again, I say is legendary attorney, just known across the state, just master litigator. He and Lee were buddies in college, and I think they were in the same fraternity. And Lee would talk forever about, man, this Paul McNeil, I'd love it if we could practice together. He's such a good man, and he is, and blah, blah, blah. And I'd be like, okay, I didn't know who Paul was. And then one day I'm in the south end zone of Razorback Stadium, watching the Hogs, and Lee sits down beside me and says, I've got him. He's got to come and join us. And he's like all euphoric. And I was like, okay, good. And it has been, man. As I've learned about him in the years since, what a blessing for us to have him. Yeah. And so that Jonesboro, man, I'm really, there's places across the state that I'm really excited about in the future. And Jonesboro is one of those. I really want to continue to serve that community and grow that. Bentonville, certainly, I've been astounded at how our Little Rock office has grown.
Yeah.
You know, I
Yeah.
mean, it's grown faster than any other, office, and I mean, super quick. We've added a bunch of great attorneys down there, and so we're super excited about that.
And talk about that. That was March, right, of this year?
Yeah, it kind of started in the fall of last year, and again, we have an attorney here that a guy named Collier Moore. And I've said to my wife, if I could have 1,000 Collier Moores, I'd take over the world. Okay. Collier's one of these guys. He is an exceptionally good attorney. He does a lot of elder law and kind of leads our elder law practice. But Collier, he's just one of those people. He's just beloved. Everybody loves him.
He's a great guy.
He's just a good man. And Collier had a friend from all the way back in Washita when they were in college down there. And her name's Mary Carol Young, and her daddy and Lee knew each other. And anyway, so we just started a conversation, and we just started talking about, hey, she had some partners that were interested in looking for a home, and we said, okay. And man, it was a lot of meetings and figuring out if their culture fit our culture, and it did. They're wonderful people and just have exceptional practices. And then throughout that, Sarah, one of the attorneys that joined us, she just mentioned to me, hey, I know you need to also talk to Perry Wilson. And Perry was at another law firm and had a group of lawyers with him that were also looking for a home. I did not see that coming. I mean, it went from a conversation in the parking lot with a nice lady about, hey, how you think this work, to just full blown kaboom. We, tripled in size down there in Little Rock all at once. And it's been exceptional. And those folks, it's like logistically, that's been a tough deal. They have been so patient with us. Because again, we're kind of learning as we go. Everything, we're not used to doubling in size. And so we've just got wonderful management people. We've got people that are that have been with us for years, like our IT people, and that I trust them with my children. You know what I mean? It's like, these are good people. And they literally went down there. Adam Flock went down there. Now, this will show you. This guy is a highbrow transactional attorney with a great practice. And he's down there washing windows and went and got all the office furniture ordered in one weekend, is up there putting it together. It's like, how can you not succeed with people like that? And so one of the things that we're told, and I'm deeply proud of this, that I am told all the time by people that come and join us is, I think at first they think it's fake. And it's like, y'all actually care about each other.
Wow.
And we do. And that is something that we all have to remind ourselves to do every day. Because, in our flesh, in and of ourselves, that's not a lot of times naturally who we are. We love me. Me, my, mine. And so what we want to do is just have those people like Adam. They just sacrifice, like Collier. They sacrifice, it's just, everywhere I look, we have people like that. And I'm so grateful. So this isn't me sitting there being like, oh, shucks, and really thinking, wow, what a good manager I am. These people, I'm not a good manager. These people are exceptional. I have been blessed in an unbelievable way to have people that are exceptional around me, and I'm grateful for them.
Well, talk about, all the people now. Talk about right now where the business is at, how many attorneys you have, the total number of offices, four offices. And what's the focus right now collectively in the company? So,
don't hold me to this, guys. I think it's 44 lawyers.
Okay.
Don't hold me to that. We have offices in Bentonville, Fayetteville, Johnson, Springdale, whatever you want to call this, where we're at, Little Rock, and Jonesboro. There are some communities I would like to I would be interested in moving into. But our vision going forward is, number one for me, and that is primarily my role of where are we trying to get to and sort of communicating that. It doesn't mean that everybody's going to accept every crazy idea I have. Yeah. But one of the things that I believe my focus going forward is really going to be, and that's what I've been thinking about for the last few years, is efficiency. And efficiency and leverage and how do we, have you noticed all these stores have you bagging your own groceries now? It's amazing. They got you to go to work for them and they're not paying you. But anyway, so when you talk about client communication and how you take in data, that's really important in our business, especially on the transactional tax side. Yeah. And how can you interface that using AI and different things, including, your people? How can we do that so that our output is more efficient? Yeah. Okay. Because practicing law and doing estate planning, it's not at least for us, maybe someone else has cracked the code, but it's not the delivery of those services. The number one complaint that people would tell you, I don't want to say what the number one complaint about me would be, but what you hear about estate planning attorneys and tax attorneys is, golly, it takes so long for me to get my stuff. Yeah. And we haven't cracked that code because there's so much work and so much need, and it's hard to turn because it's so data specific. So for example, if you have a 401k and you're an executive and I'm doing estate planning for you, okay? And your wealth for the future is in your retirement plan or any kind of qualified plan. All right. And then let's say you have a blended family. You got children from two sides that came from previous, marriages or whatever. That estate plan is fundamentally different if it's done well than somebody that has a plumbing business and we've got 2 kids and mom and dad that have been married for 50 years. Yeah. That's fundamentally different. So you have to, when working with clients, it's like going to the doctor. Okay, there's a lot of tests a doctor can give you when you go in and get your blood work and all that stuff done. But there's a whole lot of the doctor looking at you when you're saying, hey, I got this pain over here in my inner ear. And he's like, okay. And you're trying to analyze all that stuff. It produces sometimes an inefficient flow. And what we've always been chasing, and obviously technology is how you primarily chase this in, how do we shorten that from the time of you're telling me your problem till I'm giving you a solution? Yeah. You see what I mean?
And is that, in figuring that, is that bringing on, more IT staff, or what is it? Just kind of
right now, what I'm trying to do is that I'm trying to talk to some consultants that are out there in the legal space, because law is such a unique business in the sense of you have to be very careful about sharing data, protecting data. I can't just. A lot of businesses could go out and be like, well, we have this vendor over here and blah, blah, blah. Well, you can't talk about your client stuff. Yeah. And so it's a real challenge. And so what I'm doing right now is I'm not a techie person. Okay. Yeah. I am not. And we have attorneys up here that they love that stuff. But I am intrigued by how this artificial intelligence is really going to shake out in our business world, because if you were able to do 1,000 tax returns, in a quarter of the time, because you are now so efficient. CPAs would tell you, tax season, it's brutal. They are just all hours of the day just trying to get data input and proof returns and all that kind of stuff. Well, if you were able to do that, what do you need to focus on? You need to focus on getting more tax returns in the door. Yeah. Okay, you see what I'm saying? Yeah. So the efficiency with which you can handle work is going to tell you what markets you you attempt to go after.
Yep.
You know, in other words, if you're super efficient, it changes overhead. And it changes where all you can have an office, and it changes. I mean, it changes everything.
Yeah.
So I that is the part of my job. I gotta admit, I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I'm riding the lawnmower, I just love to think about things like that. I don't know why, but to think about where do we want to be 20 years from now? What does this want to look like? What is it? You know, how are these services? And I don't think anybody really knows, because I do believe the technology we're going to see, it's already here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's printing press level significant.
Yeah.
Okay. It's internal combustion engine, be it, you know, how it changed society and how it's going to, you know, affect. So I don't know whether this is true or not, but I will tell you what I overheard without revealing anything confidential. I was recently working with there's been a big move in the medical and dental and all these different industries or whatever professions to have these, management type groups, these MSOs and all that kind of stuff that are going to come in, and they're rolling up these individual practices. So maybe you've got a practice that's over in this little town in Alabama, and it's kind of your way to leverage to be able to market your practice because you're in with a bunch of other practices and a bigger outfit owns you and they can sell and you can realize your retirement. You can cash out, without going and trying to find somebody that wants to own your practice in little town Alabama. Yeah. So the group that I was working with, they represented about 650 practices, and they were very aggressively trying to find practices. And we were working on something completely different. It was looking at a deal, whether it was a deal that I'm providing legal guidance on. Yeah. And these doctors are talking, and this one guy says, well, in 10 years, AI is going to replace all primary care physicians. And, you know, people are talking, and I'm over here, and I'm like, after a little bit, I'm like, what did you say? And he was like, what? And I don't know if these guys know what they're talking about. They treated me like I was an idiot. I mean, they were like, you don't know that? And I was like, all primary care doctors are going to be replaced by AI? And they're like, yeah. And I don't know whether that's... There are probably people in the medical community that are probably like, that guy's an idiot. And I can affirm I'm an idiot. But I don't know whether those guys really know what they're talking about. But that shocked me. I'm like, how is that going to interface with the public? Are you going to just walk into an office and put your hands in a machine and it's going to draw blood and scan your eyes and all that? So if it's going to happen there in some degree, the people that are thinking about their legal businesses and accounting and all that, they need to be thinking about that. What's that going to do here?
Yeah.
And that's my primary focus right now.
And it sounds like you're excited about it.
I don't know. I don't know whether to be excited or not.
Well, because, I mean, from some of the people I've talked to who are younger, they're like nervous. Like, if I can plug in a 300-page document and it can assess it, what am I going to do, right?
Yeah.
And so how are you talking to attorneys in your practice? How are you talking to other attorneys? I mean, I know it's much is to come.
I haven't talked to a lot of folks about this. It's like it's something I'm really just trying to learn about.
Yeah.
Figure out how is this going to work. You know, the founder of LinkedIn, Reid Hoffman guy, I was reading this morning, and he was like, anytime a technology rolls out, people are like, this is going to replace mankind. Okay?
Yeah.
Well, no, I don't think so. I agree with him. It's like people said PCs were dead when mobile came out, is what he was making the point. PCs are still here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So in our business, and I say this to our young attorneys, I'll test you guys, see how insightful you are. What are people buying from us?
Experience.
That's a close one. Good.
I trust.
Y'all are very close. They're buying our wisdom.
Yeah.
It's important for us to be wise. They're buying our integrity. Mm-hmm. They're buying our experience. That's what they are seeking. That's why lawyers have historically been called counselors. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And people, I don't think, I don't think computers or artificial intelligence ever going to replace. Look, natural intelligence has enough flaws with it. Okay?
Yeah.
I mean, the idea that man is going to go create some perfect system out there to address all human need, I just think it's preposterous. We can't do that now.
Yeah.
Right? And the guy that created our intelligence is God Almighty in my view. And so, you know what I'm saying? So I don't have this doomsday view of the future.
Yeah.
I've always had a pretty optimistic, okay, let's go attack this problem. It's going to be, this is a challenge and it's going to be an amazing tool. Now, what I do believe is going to happen is I believe that we are going to have to change our thinking about employment. So let's say I could eliminate your job. Do I need to eliminate your job?
I don't know.
Well,
I think if I could do my job more efficiently and I could produce more, that'd reduce it, correct?
Okay. Yeah, it would. All right. But what if you're my son or my best friend? Do I need to eliminate your job then? No. You know why? Because I love you.
Yeah.
Now that may sound stupid, and that's fine. People can make fun of me and all that. So corporate America and the corporate world, it's like the number one thing capitalism rewards is efficiency.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And that's great. And there's going to be a lot of that. And I believe in capitalism and all that good stuff. But if you care about people, how are those decisions? I got these people that work for me up here and they're wonderful. And they got great families. Okay. And you know what? People need jobs. So the worst thing at being a manager, you know what the worst thing is? It's the worst. It really sucks, is ever having to fire somebody.
Yeah.
And anybody that says, oh, I like firing people, they got something wrong with them. Okay.
Yeah.
Because you got human beings that depend on mama and daddy bringing a paycheck home and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And, I grew up with two parents that were working their tails off, but I've seen some shutoff notices sitting on the coffee table.
Yeah.
And that's not a pleasant thing to go through. So the fact of the matter is that just because, let's say I could eliminate costs by using AI, does that mean I need to do that? Just so what? I can make more money? Who you are affects how you're going to answer that. There's a bunch of people out there who be like, yeah, heck yeah, I want a place in Tuscany.
Yeah.
But I don't. And I'm not acting like I'm such a virtue signaling, whatever. I think that our profession writ large, it's really going to have to think through those things.
It's Wild West right now.
It's like, if I'm McDonald's and all I can do is I'm going to just have a bunch of robots that work for me, that I can understand. It may not be good for society if only robots are making hamburgers, but my primary business model is to get hamburgers as inexpensively and efficiently to the public of who all's wanting to buy a hamburger.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah. As I see it in my simplistic mind. I don't know that's our model. I don't know that's what we're doing. Again, how you view what you're trying to build as an organization is going to affect these answers. What's going to be right for a person over here, it's going to be if I don't answer to a group of stockholders, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. How I would think about employing technology if I did is going to be fundamentally different than little old Joe sitting down here at RMP in Johnson, Arkansas, because it's like, hey, man, if we could increase our profit margin, that's great. But if I have to destroy somebody's financial future in order to do that, that's something that's got to be really way more careful at. So that probably sounds like a bunch of nonsense, but that is truly what I'm
thinking through.
Yeah.
And so are you obviously visionary, managing? What are you practicing a lot right now too? Yeah. So
yeah.
Kind of holding
my personal practice, it's It's in some transition. I'm really focusing now for me personally on sort of more of a practice group model just because of time. The law firm has gotten to the point where, man, it takes the administrative side.
Yeah,
it's a
beast,
tiger
yeah.
by the tail.
Yeah.
And it just takes so much time. You know, we also had a real tragedy hit our law firm earlier this year with the passing unexpectedly of John Nyhouse. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention John. In the early days of the law firm, John was just like Lee and I. I mean, just he had an amazing practice. He was a good man, and we just tragically lost him. And he absorbing that and taking care of his clients and stuff. That's been some added challenge that's caused some of us that are a little gray headed to, you know, we have bright young attorneys and they have skills, but you know, just as you get older, sometimes you're better at handling, you know, maybe an older client or something like that.
Yeah.
So I've had to do all that over time. My practice side it'll continue, I think, to there's some families I'm always going to represent.
Yeah.
I've just been with them too long. And I like practicing law.
Yeah.
I love doing this. You know, I think I joke and it's not really a joke with me. I think I was ADD when it wasn't cool. And I love the variety that is produced by practicing law. You come in with a unique problem. Now, it may be similar to a lot of problems I've dealt with.
But it's unique.
But it's unique. And I love that part of the practice. I love the personal interaction with people. And I just think it's a great way to make a living and a great way to help people and all those sorts of things. And I don't think that's another reason why I don't think AI is ever going to replace us.
Yeah.
You know? And, but I just, the management side has just taken on such an increased role. One of the things that I am trying to do is trying to figure out, are there other services that are ancillary to our practice here? You know, that I heard Mr. Jim Lindsay, one time say, and I thought it was brilliant. He said, our goal is we try to make money off of a piece of property multiple times, same piece of property. We want to make money when we, you know,
build it,
buy it, build it, manage it, sell it. And I was like, man, that is awesome. Well, why can't you do that with clients?
Yeah.
So thinking of as far as, so for example, we haven't done this yet, but business valuations are something that we really, you know, have to, that's very important in our world because of reporting to the IRS.
Yeah.
And I've thought before, man, maybe we should recruit and have some, you know, valuation experts, you know, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's just stuff like that. You just brainstorm a lot.
Yeah.
And that's certainly what our clients have demanded, certain things. You know, Paretum, the CPA firm that's under RMP, and those guys and gals are doing just great work. That's really growing. It's just came from clients going, we don't want to go get our tax returns done somewhere else.
Please do them.
Do this.
Yes.
Okay. There's great accountants and CPAs across our region. And it's like, we're not trying to be H&R Block. We want to work with those folks, and we don't want to be a threat to them and their business or anything else.
Yeah.
But we just have clients that are like, we're going to go somewhere where we can have somebody that does our corporate work and does our estate planning and does our tax returns, and we're going to go to one spot. Yeah. And if there's somebody that get chewed out, we're going to chew you out. And then we want to cut one check, and that's just how it is. And, you know, I really think that the big box store sort of mentality that came on, I think that led to that. People just going, no, I'm going to get my hair cut and my eyeglasses, my carrots, and my banking.
Yeah.
And I don't want to go a bunch of different places. So,
but have you seen that lead to happier clients or better results? I mean, I assume if you're doing their taxes and you're doing their strategy, there's got to be some excellent product that comes out of that.
I think, yes, I think so. Now, obviously, you're always looking and going, well, how can we do this better? we're not perfect. And so obviously RMP is much more efficient today than it was in 05.
Mm-hmm.
Way more efficient.
Yeah.
RMP is way more able to handle a large transaction than it was in 05 and all points in between, because as you add bodies. So on the tax reporting and those sorts of things, the product, here's where that is such an advantage. The product is getting more efficient is what I was about to say. But the advantage is this. It is hard for John Q. Citizen out there to go and get his information from his business and get it to his CPA. And then let's say we're doing gift tax returns for him because we're doing estate planning over here. And there's all this coordination that has to take place. There's a bunch of that for a client, they're just happy when it's happening behind. They don't need to see how the sausage is made, It's like when it's happening behind. Now, we may be having 5 meetings over here about, well, is this company passive, or is what's the activity over here? What's the tax ID number here? All that kind of stuff. But the client, they just got a life to live, and they're just sort of like, go take care of that.
Yeah.
And that's really, I think, why that has grown is just the convenience of it, because it can't be the cost, because it's more expensive.
Yeah.
That's good. So is Paradigm, is that the only other kind of business offshoot of RMP, or?
It is now. There is a business that we have over here to the side that Lee and I and Alex, it's primarily Alex and I, but Lee and Collier and Alex and I started because some clients asked us to, and it's a private trust company that just deals with clients that are needing fiduciary help. The way I describe it is, it's a family office support company.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if a family comes to us and says, we may not need you for a bunch of different things, but we do need help here, we go and solve that problem for them.
Yeah.
And, it's like some people, maybe they've sold their business, they've had a cash out event, and they're all of a sudden, they've been wealthy in a number sense, but they've really not they've never gone and purchased a private jet or that kind of thing. And we provide that. They've never had to worry about any more than all people have to worry about their IT and their data security and all that. Maybe they need an in-house CPA.
Yeah.
And they want one. They have no idea how to recruit one or train one or what software needs or all that kind of stuff. We had a family that we work with, and a long time family, and they had a CPA, and she was fantastic, and she got pancreatic cancer and was gone in it was amazing to me how fast that was from diagnosis to her passing. And it was just tragic for this family because they were sitting there trying to pick up the pieces. So they said, never again. We're not doing that again. We have to have someone in-house, but we're going to have, if something happens, a car wreck or anything like that. So what we do is, we work with that person in-house.
Yeah.
The software overlaps. We're looking at the tax returns. This person probably prepares, 65, 70 tax returns a year. And we're looking at them and working with them. But if something happened, God forbid, there's at least a backstop.
Yeah.
So it's really a la carte, how people are doing this stuff. A lot of what we do that families really respond to is data management. And so we build, for lack of a better word, dashboards where, I need my tax return from 8 years ago. And it's like, you click on this company and it's like, I need my articles. I need my operating agreement. I need my minutes from 3 years ago. I need the buy-sell agreement. I need the key person insurance. I need the business license. I need this. And so it's like peeling an onion and people even, I need my child's birth certificate. And, it's super important that stuff is secure, but we build those systems for people and have had, just amazing response to that. Mm-hmm. We've been doing that for years. And a lot of times people are like, I just want you to do that. Yeah. Because people that are in business and they're trying to do, let's say that you are, let's say you have a lumber company. You're worried about selling lumber to the public. You may be great at that, but you're worried about trucks and logistics and fuel and people power and all that stuff. And then somebody walks up and says, where's that contract over here? And they're just, oh my gosh, and they're digging through file cabinets. We try to answer that problem for them.
Yeah.
So that's been something that has really been effective over time.
Well, one of the things I think would be cool to share, and I don't know if you can share it, but are there things as you've worked through highly complex estate plans with, ultra net worth families that you're like, they did this, and I thought that was really interesting way to set up. I think we were talking to the Lewis guys last week, and they were talking about there's 80 Lewises here, and their grandfather set up a succession plan for the business, and they have to touch every part of the business and have an external board of directors who votes on if they can be in the. I just thought it was really interesting. So I imagine you've seen some very complex things, and are there ever a few that come to mind that you're like, this is really interesting?
Yeah. So we do a setup and design and work through a lot of that stuff and work with other people across the country on a lot of that stuff. And it's first of all, it's not uniform. So every family is going to be a little bit different, et cetera. But there's a couple of things that we really believe in. Number one, and by the way, whoever's listening to this, I'm not giving you legal advice. I'm not your attorney. That's my disclaimer.
Yeah.
One, you don't need to own an asset to enjoy it. Think about that. What if I said to you, I have a house in Martha's Vineyard. Nick, you get to use it for your life. You can do anything you want to with it. You can bulldoze it. You can have it as an Airbnb. You can decide who gets it when you die. You can do anything I can do. How is that different than ownership? You don't own it, but you have that level of enjoyment.
I mean, from an experience side, it's not. There's zero.
None.
There's zero, yeah.
You can sell it and use the money from the sale for what you want, right? It smells like you own it. It tastes like you own it. It looks like you own it. But if your wife leaves you, you don't own it.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? Your wife can't take something that you don't own.
Yeah.
Joe, the sleazy plaintiff's attorney, that you can't sue you and take what you don't own. So one of the things that we want to do is we want to combine tax planning with asset protection planning. And so what we concentrate on is getting your assets packaged, if you're a large wealth family, package it in such a way where we can meet multiple objectives at once. But one of the things we try to do is get people where they have maximum enjoyment.
Yeah.
But not ownership. Okay? And you say, well, who owns it? Well, a lot of times dynasty trusts, companies, these different strategies, and there's a bunch of different of those, okay? But like you talked about succession when you were talking about the Lewis family. Succession it's very important. In other words, if you are looking at a family and somebody says, well, I have 4 kids, and my daughter and I are the ones who've already run this company. We've run it for 20 years, and she's crucial to the business. I want her to run the business. Well, you better talk to daughter and make sure she's willing to work for her siblings who may not be doing anything, because they're getting more of the money potentially than she is. Okay. So you got to think through all those issues. And so that's where you look at also, besides just asset protection and getting assets valued so that you can transfer them from one generation to the next as tax-free as possible. But you're also needing to talk about, in that situation, possibly liquidity or replacing one asset with another. Maybe she gets the business, but the siblings get insurance money. So that requires people with insurance advice, that are really skilled, because, just sitting there going, well, I want my kids treated equally, or that kind of simplistic thinking is not the best for a lot of families. Yeah. And that's why it takes a long time to design and develop these plans. And that's why if you're going to people and you go, I need an estate plan, and they just get some sort of package and go, here, this will answer all your problems. That's not very sophisticated work. Okay. Sophisticated work for you and your family is we're going to have a lot of conversations about, okay, what do you own? What are you doing? Who's going to run it? What happens when one spouse dies? What happens when another one dies? It is huge. All the things that you have to consider in order to effectively deal with high net worth families.
It's good. It's a great example too. We'll talk about, we were kind of going to current. So around 44 attorneys. Is there another 20 in support staff, or how's the?
You're putting me on the spot. I don't know the total number.
Okay. But it sounds like y'all are kind of already, this office is pretty full.
Yeah.
It sounds like.
Yeah, we got a few places that we could stick people, but
okay.
yeah, we're pretty full here.
And then a lot of growth at Peridium happening right now.
We recently, over here by Willow Creek Women's Hospital, got just this week opened up some new office space over there. So we're excited about that.
Yep.
Yeah. And so, we just continue to grow. The private trust company, Dynastic Wealth Management, that's growing. And we're really, really excited about that as well. And so it's a tiger by the tail.
Yeah.
It's like the old gray mare ain't what she used to be, as the saying says. I'm starting to wonder how much, bandwidth I have.
And so, I don't know if there's anything else right now. So like looking in the future, you kind of said a few things. Hey, possibly some other offices, becoming more efficient. You see outside of Arkansas becoming,
Yeah. Not on the immediate radar, but we already have attorneys that are licensed in multiple states around, but there's some business relationships that in the coming years we'll have to have some offices.
Sure.
And it right now it's primarily Southeastern related.
Yeah.
But that'll be necessary for us.
Well, that's amazing. There's I don't know if there's anything else about the future you wanted to touch on, but I was going to kind of wrap us up here.
Yeah.
So there's two questions we ask at the end for every guest. One, so Northwest Arkansas founders, why build a business here in Northwest Arkansas?
Oh man, why not? This is so. I will use my kids as an example. My kids. It's like, unlike me when I was growing up, my kids, they've been able to travel and with us and see a lot of different places, and they all wanted to be at U of A. Like when I was a kid, I was like, I want to go somewhere and see and my kids are just like, oh no, it's awesome here. It's great. We want to live here. You see the evidence of people moving in here. So number one is the people of Northwest Arkansas. It's just a really hospitable, awesome place to live. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Clean, great schools. We've got now, or there's some infrastructure, traffic flow. I don't like this intersection and that kind of stuff. Obviously there's challenges, but go live somewhere where that's not the case.
Yeah.
Low crime. We have, I think, the relationship between government and business, Northwest Arkansas is so pro-business, it's just, that's been its legacy. So it's a place where if you are dreaming of building a business, you can do it here. Another thing is the resources, you can't say enough about just having the University of Arkansas here and what that brings to our region. What's going on with the medical,
it's crazy.
The medical world, and that's going on. You just have a lot of resources here. And I don't know, man, I think it is a perfect blend, and it'll be interesting, throughout the rest of my life, if how well we'll be able to maintain it. Cause you can already feel sort of, man, it takes a while to drive. It takes a while to drive, from here to there. It's like, doggone this traffic and stuff. But then again, you live in Atlanta and,
that's what you get.
It's all relative. So, but I just think there's a perfect mix. There's great people here. You have this you have this wonderful corporate base of these just all different sizes, but certainly headlines by the big three, of just Walmart, Tyson, JB Hunt, and just all that. It just produces a synergy. Yeah. And I think we've seen that through, I've lived through a few financial crises nationally, and man, Northwest Arkansas has been really resilient. That to me is exciting. But, people build businesses, people have kids, great place for your kids to grow up. And, there's all sorts of just activities in schools and all that stuff. And my wife and I, we've lived that out. So I've never been somewhere anywhere in the world that I've been and went, man, I wish I lived here. Mm-hmm. That either I'm stupid or Northwest Arkansas really is an amazing place to live. Mm-hmm. And I hope I'm not completely stupid, Oh,
that's great. So last question, how do you define success?
Boy, that's a big question. I don't think there's one definition, I guess I would say. For me, personally, or you mean organizational?
Yeah, for you.
For me, okay, so I believe one day I'm going to stand before the Lord Jesus Christ, and that's not fake with me. I believe that like this table sitting here. And I believe I'm going to give him an account of how I spent my life. And if he looks at me and says, you're a bit of a knucklehead, but good, pretty good, he was perfect, so I don't have to be. So my point is that would be success for me. Now, I know you're asking for it in a business sense. So success would be, I certainly think, sustaining, just continuing to grow and those things. I think seeing your people individually succeed for me, and I really mean that. Like just watching when we have these young people. I look at Denny. Denny's not young anymore. Sorry, Denny. But man, I knew that guy when he was in his early 20s.
Yeah,
and he's a superstar. Okay, he's a superstar. Now he's not a superstar because of me or Lee. He's a superstar because he decided he was going to be a superstar and he went at it and has worked his tail off. But when I see him and his family and what he's built and what we've helped him build, and same thing with Alex and Bo Renner and all the different people, I really take a lot of joy in that. I really do.
Yeah.
So that to me is successful because I want to see these people flourish. Now, make no mistake, I want to flourish too. But that to me, I guess, that's probably not a good answer of what's success. I wish I could say something inspiring, but I don't have it.
That's good. We love all the answers that people have been given. It's pretty incredible because there's a lot of ways you can answer the question.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things we do at the end of every episode is talk about what we learned from you, what we think small business owners, entrepreneurs, seasoned business professionals are going to learn from you. And I think the one thread kind of going through this whole piece about your growth is that you just kept filling a need. And there's one other episode that comes to mind. Kim Hanna and Cindy Watson, in similar way, their organization just kept growing because they were just filling needs in the community. And whether it's different types of law or whether it's just meeting needs that your clients want, like Peridium. Just kind of time after time, you went back to, well, it's not just some grand master strategy. Yes, there's been intentionality in our growth, but we are truly just meeting the needs of our clients, and we're doing an excellent job. And I think if you're a business owner listening, if you're focused on meeting a need in our community, you will be successful. And so thanks for teaching us that, Joe. I think the second piece is just all about talent. all about talent. And the two things that you really talked about with your talent was integrity and excellence. And I think excellence kind of comes down to merit. But if you only focus on merit, you don't focus on people's character, you know, you're going to get sideways really quickly. And I think
I agree with that.
you did a great job of highlighting, you know, names of employees and, you know, how they exhibit their character and integrity and are just really excellent at their craft.
And there's tons of stars here, I will tell you, that I did not mention.
Yeah.
I mean, and so if I didn't, I should have. That's my fault.
No, but I think that was really, you know, if you're building an organization and you want growth, you have to start with the right people. And you guys did that from the beginning, and you guys are doing it as you build the plane. And so just really cool to see that. And I think the last one that really sticks out, Joe, is the word care. And, you know, you talked about your faith a lot. You talked about your family a lot. And then you talked about the attorneys and the staff in this office, and maybe not all of them by name, but I think it was very clear that more than anything, and you just said it in your last answer, how you see other people in this building succeed, like that's success for you. And I think organizations that have leaders like that tend to grow, because when you are getting cared for, you want to give. You know, you talked about sacrifice, and that's one of y'all's core values here. If the leader's doing that and all the people are doing it, everybody's, you know, swimming in the same direction, and it's really, really hard to fail. So I think those are just, when we think through this conversation, the things that stick out about RMP, those are really, really clear. So thanks for sharing with us. How can people learn more about RMP? How can they reach out to you or any of the attorneys here?
Yeah, so, you know, obviously we go to our website. You can call up here if you want to talk. We're pretty laid back, pretty easy to reach. You can contact us, phone, web, whatever. And then, you know, a lot of our attorneys, they also go and speak. So if do a lot of CLE, I've done a lot of that, a lot of just going and speaking to groups about at least what our ideas. And what's awesome is when you go to those things is you hear other people's ideas, and, you know, it's just all about networking and learning and you know, that kind of thing. And so we do a lot of that. If people need us to do those sorts of things, we're speak down at the school and different stuff. Over the years, we've done quite a bit of that.
Well, cool. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks, Joe.
Man.